I must say that you are very good indeed. If I'm going to come back down here again, I would like the same people to cook. Okay, we don't have very much time, so my wife is going to bless you with a song. I hope everybody got a sheet of paper. If you haven't, someone is going to come around with one. You need a sheet of paper. You need, hopefully you have something to write, and we will kick off after that.
Food was so nice, I want to sleep. Okay. All things work for our good, though sometimes we can't see how they could. Struggles that break our hearts in two, sometimes blind us to the truth. Our Father knows what's best for us. His ways are not our own. So when your pathway grows dim and you just can't see him, remember you're never alone. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, touch his heart, trust his heart. He sees the master plan. He holds the future in his hands. So don't be like those who have no hope. All our hope is found in him. He sees the present clearly, but he sees the first and the last. And like a tapestry, he's weaving you and me to someday be just like him. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plans, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. He alone is faithful and true. He alone knows what's best for you. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. When you can't see his plan, when you can't trace his hands, trust his heart. Trust his heart.
Thank you very much. When you don't see his plan and you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. Are we all ready to start today? Do you have a pen, a paper? Oh, what don't you have? If I lend you one of my pen, am I going to get it back? If I don't get it back, I'll complain to Pastor Sewell. Okay. Anybody else need a pen? Oh, there are pens at the back. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I hope that writes how that's writing. Okay. All right. Let me just check with you to see if you have been listening well this morning. I have a slight quiz for you. So I want you to write numbers 1 to 10. You could write them in a column, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it doesn't fit on one page, you could flip the other side on the other side. And let me know when you're ready. Number one. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to rate David and Michal's marriage. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to rate David and Michal's marriage. 1, very bad, and 10, very good. I want you to rate it. What do you think? Where would they stand on the scale? Rate their marriage. On a scale of 1 to 10. Huh? Yes. What rating would you give the marriage? Okay, number 2. I want you to look, hold on, it's not being reflected on the screen. Oops, what's going on? Oh yes, number 2. All right, sorry. Number 2. Okay. Why was Michal upset with David? A, he was dancing during worship. B, the type of dancing he did was a bit embarrassing. C, she was jealous that the ladies might be attracted to David because of the way he was dressed or not dressed. And D, he did not have royal decorum during the celebration. No, I don't want. Oh, okay. Don't shout the answers. Don't shout the answers. Okay? Okay, you only have 30 seconds. You only have 30 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next question. What Michal really needed, she needed something, was A, for David to spend more time with her, B, for David to act more like royalty than a commoner, C, avoid attracting other women, D, not embarrass her by the way he was dressed and the way he was behaving, D, to look good in the eyes of people through the way David appeared in public. What do you think she really needed? Huh? Yes, that's number 3. I forgot to put the letters. So A, for David, what happened there? It went off. Should I read them for you? Huh? I could read them for you. A, for David to spend more time with her. B, for him to act a little bit more like royalty than a commoner. C, to avoid attracting other women. D, not embarrass her by the way he was dressed and the way he behaved. And E, to look good in the eyes of people through how David appeared in public. What do you think she really, really needed? You could read the Bible. Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and next question. This is number 4. This is number 4. Yeah, we just did number 3. Number 4, David was upset with Michal because he was tired and burnt out from the day's activities. B, she didn't allow him to bless his family. C, she was arguing about petty issues. D, she didn't join him for worship. E, she was disrespectful to him as a husband and a king. So he didn't like her attitude. What upset David? Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next question. Now, every couple has a way to deal with issues and problems. And we're going to look at Michal and David, and I want you to choose from one of these options. What method did they use to resolve the problems they had? So A is to debate or argue or convince one another. B is to avoid the problem altogether. C is to use power, authority, or threat to get what they want. D is to ask. E is to give in and ignore. And F is to explore win-win options. From the story, which one of these they use to resolve or try to resolve their conflict? A, to debate or argue or convince. B, to avoid the issue altogether. C is to use power, authority, and threat. D is to ask. E is to give in or ignore. And F is to use what we call win-win options. So what strategy did they as a couple use? Have a guess. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next question. Well, Michal used a certain strategy to get her needs met. Would you consider her strategy to be effective? Would you consider her strategy to be ineffective? Or would you consider her strategy to be counterproductive? So when you're solving issues, the way you go about solving it could be effective, ineffective, or counterproductive. Which one of these you would choose for Michal, the way she went about solving the problem she had? All right, we'll talk a little bit more. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next question. Michael's approach to David. No, yeah. Can we go forward to the next? Yeah. Michael's approach to David caused David to stonewall and ignore her. That is, to just be stubborn. B, become defensive and counterattack. C, become contemptuous towards her. And D, to become critical of her. How did David respond to her? Did she put up a wall and block her out? Did he become defensive? Did he become, she had contempt for him, but did he show contempt for her? Or was he critical of her? Which of these? Is it difficult? Ooh, it's to cause you to think. Think. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. David, many people, and we're going to talk about that. I haven't spoken about this. When we are attacked, we either fight or we run, called flight, or we freeze or shut down, or we faint and give up. What was David's default self-defense? Did he fight? Did he run? Did he freeze? Did he faint? Yes, Alex? Well, I forgot the number. Number 8. Oh. You're making it up in your head? Okay, you've answered that already. All right, that's fine. Next question. We just have 2 more questions. I think this is the last question. Is that the last question? Okay, we'll come back to the last question in a minute. So let's go back to number 1. Are you ready for the answers? By the way, I didn't tell you this, but some of the questions have multiple right answers. So, okay, let's hear you now. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put Michael and David's marriage? What number on the scale? Who would say 10? Anybody say 10? No? No 10s? Who would say 9? No 9s? How about 8? 7? Okay, we have one hopeful here. We have one. 6? 6 to 7? Okay, 5? Anybody else? 5? Okay, 5. You put 5. All right, 4. Okay, we have 4 here. 3. Okay, we have a couple of 3s. 2. 1. You have 1, okay. Okay, now there's no right answer. You want to ask me where I would put it? Yes. Where do you think I would put it? Okay, it will be below 5, but not below 2. Okay? Between 3, 4. The relationship there wasn't really on par. I don't think that they had a good relationship. At the beginning, they had an excellent relationship. In fact, at the beginning, when they first got married, it was more 10, 9, 10. Okay? 9, 10. Yes? Let's hear you. Okay, yeah, you can remember that. There's a history. Okay, the potential was still there. But we're not talking about potential. Yes. Remember now, David had multiple wives, got married to Abigail, Ahinoam. Then he got some concubines, by the way. She had children. And as we were discussing earlier, how are you going to fit in there? When we first got married, there were just the two of them alone. Now she's coming in, and they were already established wives, and she's coming in from another husband. Okay? So I don't think things would be smooth. Things won't be smooth. Next question. Why was Michael upset with David? Anybody has A? You have all of the above? If you have any of those or all of the above, you're right. Yeah? If you have any of them or all of the above, probably not as much letter A, because she didn't mention the dancing. She mentioned how he was dressed. She was more focused about how he appeared than what he was doing. Okay? So if you have A, I don't think that was right. That's not right. The type of dancing he did was embarrassing. A and B wouldn't be right. Yep. If you have C, yep. If you have D, that is the best answer. That he was behaving like a vile fellow instead of like a king. Right? So it wasn't so much about the dancing. It's more about how he was dressed. He didn't, in a way, he wasn't acting like the king according to her perception of how kings should behave. And there's a little side note here. You notice that she had a similar attitude to her father. Her father was very careful about how he appeared in public. Let's go on to the other one, and I'll explain that a little bit further. What Michael really wanted is for David to spend more time with her. Maybe she did, but that we couldn't get that from the text. Maybe she did, we don't know. But most women would want that, but that's not the answer we're looking for. B, to act more like royalty than a commoner. Yes. C, to avoid distracting other women, attracting other women. In a way, I think that she was kind of jealous. Because, like I mentioned this morning, it was not only women that were there. That there were lots of other people, lots of men. But she picked up on the fact that, look at all these women, what are you going to do taking off your clothes? By the way, he wasn't totally naked. It was, the term she used was more like an idiom. He took off his kingly royal robe and he was dressed like a priest, which back in that time, the priests weren't classed very highly. And so, it's like my wife, she's very careful. She would say to me, why are you dressing like that? Dress up. Just like any old man here. So you could see that women had that from a long time ago, Somehow or the other, women tend to think, or the society judge women based on how their husbands and children look. So, as far as we're concerned, we don't care. But people are going to think that I'm not looking after you. Yes? This is number three. Okay. We won't go there. Are we having a Michael and David moment here? Okay. All right. So she was embarrassed by the way he was dressed and behaved. And she she wanted to look good in the eyes of the people through how David appeared. Remember, this is also a throwback to her father. When David went out and won the war with the Philistines and the surrounding enemies, and they came back triumphantly, the women were dancing, and what were they singing? Saul had killed his thousands, and David has killed his 10,000. And that, he started to become jealous. And he said to himself, what more are they going to do? They're going to give the kingdom to David. And likewise, you could see that a slight attitude in the daughter, where she has a certain perception, a certain level to live up to, and the man that she's married to must behave according to that, else she won't look good. Yeah? Are you with me? Okay. Now, David's defense is to, and I'm going to stay a little while here because I want to, this is a teaching moment, a little bit of a teaching moment. I want you to understand a very important principle in human behavior. All of us have within us, in our brain, God had created our brain and wired us for survival and to thrive. And there is a particular part of our brain that is normally called the survival mechanism. Now, the survival mechanism is not only in human beings, it is in all animals. And animals have developed various strategies to survive. When they are threatened, the survival mechanism kicks in, and they use certain strategies to survive. For example, some animals fight. And when they're threatened and they fight in certain ways. Do you know of any animal that fight when it's threatened? Any animal that fight? Lions, yes. And what do they do? What do they do in order, when they're threatened, what do they do to respond in fighting? What are some of the things that they do? They roar. They roar, they show their teeth, they bulk up the mane around their necks, spread out. And human beings do that too. When we are threatened, some people, usually, especially if you're coming up to them, what do? They begin to enlarge themselves. And sometimes when the survival mechanism kicks in, we shout, right? We scream, we get angry. And when we are angry, our volume goes up. And in no way, another one, let's think of another animal that fights, because sometimes some animal, bears, yes, fight. Did you say tigers? Yes. We have snakes too. And what do snakes do? They stand up and they show their fangs, and some snakes spit. All right, they spit. Venom. Do you know of any human beings that do that? They spit venom with their words. Ooh. And some of the words could poison you. Oh my days. And, well, I won't go down there. I won't go there. So some of us, we fight and we use different strategies. Men, this is a generalization. Don't, go around and say, Hilton, say this. This is just generalization. Generally speaking, this is the men that gets aggressive when they become flooded. Women use a lot of times a slightly different strategy with their aggression. Because when women tangle with men in terms of a physical fight, they usually get the messy end of the stick. So they use a different strategy. And what strategy do you think they use? I'm leaving it to you to guess. What do you think they use? Their mouth. I'm glad you said it. The mouth, the words. Do you know that words are just, if not more, effective? Some women could slice the flesh off a man without spilling blood. Oh dear. Only eternity will shed the light on how many daggers men suffer, and many times in silence. Yes, sometimes they give as much as they get. Some men are just as good at it, and some women are just as good as giving blows. Oh boy! Should I tell you a quick story? You know, you like juicy stories, don't you? Yes. All right. There's a story. It's a true story, really, where this man they lived in a block of flats. And this guy lived on the third floor, and there was a floor above him, 2 floors above him. But ever so often, the couple above him would get into fights, and he would hear the woman scream and bawl. And one day he got tired of it, and and this woman was screaming, "Murder, murder, murder!" Oh my God! And he couldn't take it anymore. So he came out of his flat, went up the stairs, and began pounding on the door. And nobody was responding. He could just hear the blows and the shouting, "Murder!" So he went back downstairs to rescue this woman. He climbed up the balcony and came over the balcony. And the balcony was, the bedroom was adjoined to the balcony. When he got over and looked in the bedroom, he was shocked. The woman was on the man, pounding him and slapping him, and yet she was saying, "Murder, murder!" Oh my days, I could tell you stories, Oh my. So yes, you're quite right that there are some men who are very sharp with their words too, and there are some women who could give as good as they get when it comes to. Now let's go back to David. Now, the next thing, that there are some animals and human beings too that they don't stand and fight. What do? They run. Do you know of any animal, Maya? Do you know of any animal that run when they're threatened? Huh? Rabbits, yes. Anybody else? Huh? Deer, yes, deer. Anybody else can think of any animal that runs? I didn't hear that. Cats, yes. Foxes usually attack. Yes, foxes fight, but they would run if the animal. Yes, so human beings, there's some of us who actually run too. And usually they say, again, this is a generalization, don't quote me as being exact, that generally when a man and a woman gets into an argument, the man becomes flooded far more quickly than, and when I say flooded, his system, gets really, his temperature rises, his blood pressure, he's pounding, and he just, long before the woman realizes. So she could be yapping, going on and having a go at him, not realizing that he's flooded. Yes, he's boiling up. And men do 2 things, generally speaking. They either walk away or lash out. Sometimes men tend to walk away, and guess what the woman does? Follow him. Where are you going? We have to deal with this right now. Oh my Lord. A couple that I dealt with, the guy, and they were having an argument, and the guy was about to leave. And the woman braced the door, blocked the door, and demanded that he's not going to leave until they settle the issue. All this time, his pressure was high. And all he wanted to do was to leave. And he took her and pushed her slightly. And she turned around and hit him one good slap. And he shoved her, gave her one shove, and she landed on the ground and hit her head. Not, she didn't get knocked out. She called the police. And guess who they went with? Get. Statistics shows, in terms of domestic violence, that women often, just as much as men, initiate the violence. Had one couple, and this guy said to me, "Tell her not to hit me. Can you just tell her not to hit me?" And that's something we need to probably look at, because, things could really get out of hand when you're talking, and also when you initiate and lash out. So that is fleeing. Some people can't take it, and you know what they do? They just simply shut down, which is what I would call freezing. Men are usually the one who generally freeze and stonewall. They can't take it anymore. Guess what? They just shut down. And they don't respond. And it's like an invisible wall, which makes women even more frustrated because they're not getting through. And if they're not getting through, they too could attack just to get a response. So some men shut down or freeze. Anybody here knows any animal that sometimes pretend to be dead when they're attacked? Yes? Bees? Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, bees. Fly. Have you ever seen them? Oh, yes? Moth. Okay. We have some flies that sometimes buzz around. I hit them one swat. I up to this week, and the fly dropped. My wife went to get something to pick the fly up, and by the time she did that, the fly flew off, Yes, Amelia? Yeah. What's the insect called? You don't remember? Is it a weevil? Oh, okay. So some people, some animal, when the survival mechanism, an opossum sometimes pretend to be dead. There's also a type of snake. I can't remember the name of the snake. Not only does it pretend to be dead, it throws up. It throws up, and then pretend to be dead. And, some people too just can't take it. And they just give in. They just simply say, whatever. Anything for peace sake. Anything for peace sake. Now, which one do you think which strategy do you think David employed? Fight. They became defensive. Who are you? Who's talking? Remember, God is the one that chose me above your father. You're missing the place here. David really gave it to her. Yes? That's not the question. I think if you move forward one, can you go forward one question for us? Oh, no, that's not. I think the one that says fight, flight, or I can't remember the number. Number 3? Okay. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so David, so it was fight. Yep, David wasn't having any of it. David really put her in her place. All right, next question. Let's see what the next question is. Debate. Now, usually to solve problems among couples, they use a set of strategies. Some people debate. Which is the answer that you got for this? Oh, okay. All right. I think. Okay. Okay. I'm not even sure which number I'm on now. But let's just look at the one. This is number 5. What was number 4? That one? This is number 4. David was upset with Michael because he was tired and burnt out from the day's activities. Who has A? B? B is correct, yes. C? C, yes, she was arguing about petty issues from his perspective. D? Not necessarily. I don't think David was expecting her to, although it would have been good if she did. Hold on. Yeah? Can you? Yeah? E? Yeah? Anybody has E? Yep, that's E. Yeah, that's good. So you could B, C, or E would be correct. All right? Number 5. Okay, let's go to 5. we're getting on the right track. Okay, so 5. Which letter is correct? A, B, C, D, or E? Who has A? A is correct. A is correct. Right? So let's go on to the next question. For this one, A is the correct one. Michael's approach to solving the situation, was it effective, ineffective, or counterproductive? Who has A? No, it wasn't effective. Who has B? You get half point. If you have C, C is counterproductive. She got the total opposite of what she wanted. And let me just say here, okay, many of us, when we want something, we criticize, we condemn. This lady said to me one day, she got home and went up to her husband and clipped his ears and said, "You didn't buy any flowers for me today." Now they got in a whole big argument for that. What did she want? She wanted flowers. Why did she want that? She was at work, and flowers was delivered for her friend, and she got jealous. Yes, and Claire came home and had a go at the husband. And you know what she did? Would it encourage him to buy flowers? No. So the strategy she used was counterproductive. Yeah? And maybe I could give you an entire session on how to use effective strategies to get what you want. All right, let's go to the next question. Yep, if you go forward one. Michael's approach caused David to stonewall, ignore her, become defensive, counterattack, contemptuous towards her, or critical of her. If you have B or D, you're right. Okay? B and D are correct. And a little bit of C, he was getting annoyed, but B or D. Okay. David, we did this one. Next one, we did this one already. That one we did. Now, let us now talk about how should Michael and David go about solving their issues. Who do we want to start with first? Should we start with Michael? Yeah, Michael? Or Michael? All right. One of the first ways, maybe I should ask you, what is it that she wanted? What is it that she needed? Based on her action, it was not what it appeared. What do you think her need was? And I'm going to speak about needs right now. All of us, whatever we do, however we do it, is to supply a need. We have different needs. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something called emotional needs. Have you heard about emotional needs before? Yes. Okay. Have you heard of physical needs? What are some physical needs that we have? Food, water, clothes, air. Now, these needs are to help us to function optimally and thrive. If we don't get them, we die or we suffer. Similarly, all of us have what is called emotional needs. Now, emotional needs are to our soul what food, water, air is to our bodies. If you don't get your needs met, you become irritable, you become upset, you become stressed out, and things are not going to go well. And let me give you some needs that you may not even be thinking about. In order for you to sit here and think about and operate, the temperature in the air has to be a certain level. If it gets too cold, a lot of you are going to go for your coat and you're going to try to get some warmth. If it gets too hot, what's going to happen? Yes? I'm sorry? Right, you'll take off layers. Some of you will start a fan, okay? And if it gets very hot, you will go outside. Similarly, all of us have needs. There are several types of needs in many different categories. There are what we call cultural needs. There are general needs. General needs. Some of the general needs are all of us need to be approved, to be loved, to be part of a group. All of us love to have compliments. All of us need to know that we're appreciated. All of us need to know that we are needed. There are also personal needs. Some people like power. Do you know of anybody who likes power? They have to be up front. Not me, of course. They have to be in charge. They come in the room and they take charge. If you don't let them take charge, they get upset. Some people are married to offices in the church. If you don't elect them, then it's trouble. And then when they get there, they think they could run the church. The church is theirs. Some people like power. Some people, and I think most of you here, like order. Okay? If things are not placed in a certain position at a certain time, you can't think. My wife comes into the room that I'm operating, and she said, "How could you think in that mess?" You know it. It sounds like you're the sister. How could you think? I wasn't even thinking about what she's thinking about. She cleans up the... And you know what? I feel better. But I wasn't really thinking about... Then I can't find what I want, Where's that paper? Where's that letter? What paper are you talking about? So it creates a different issue. So some people are very tidy, very organized, very clean. They can't operate in mess. Some people love, and I don't know for you, some people love quietness. For me, I don't mind noise, but when it's the evening time to go to sleep, I cannot take noise. It drives me putties. And my children say, "Why are you so upset? Why are you so cross?" when it comes to the night. I say, I don't want to see you. Go to your rooms. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I just need quiet in the evenings. Some people like peace. They're not contentious. They're not argumentative. If you argue with them, they're just simply giving. Anything for peace sake. Right? There are some people who are like that. And that's a need for them. Some people, like to have some kind of noise in the background. The TV must be on, the radio must be on, they must be chatting to someone on the phone, music. Some people are like that. That's a need. They must have something going on. going on. And there are some people who just love to talk. They talk for England. They talk for the world. They just love to talk. They must be talking. They talk on the phone. They talk, when they talk all night. I don't know how people do that. I talk sometimes when it's necessary to be talking, and you see me here talking, but there are times don't talk to me. I just want quietness. I'm not in the mood. Leave me alone. So there are some people who have a need to talk, and we've found that primarily women are more talkative than men. In fact, they found that they connect through talking. And then there are some people who just like to be in your presence. They like people to be around them. They're going in a party, they're the center of the party, they just love to have people around them, to be around people. And then there are people who don't like that at all. They just like to be by themselves. And there are even some people who like space. They just like space. They get claustrophobic with, I wonder what your needs are. Have you found out what your emotional needs are? I don't have enough time to go through them, but there are personal emotional needs that all of us have. And if we don't have those needs met, we become cranky and irritable and easy to get upset. There are times, it's almost like hunger. Right now, our bellies are full. We have eaten, we're not thinking about food, but if tomorrow we don't get the food, one of my sons, he when he was young, he said that he doesn't eat to live, he lives to eat. He loves food, he just loves food. He'll eat you out of house and land. Yes, they're boys, especially when they become teenage years. They burn it off quicker. Now, the point I'm making is that, but when you're hungry, when you get hungry, sometimes if you're fasting, it's not a big deal, you can hack it. But have you ever heard the term, a hungry man is an angry man? Yeah? Hungry man is an angry man. When it comes to people, particularly couples, some couples love attention. You need to notice me. You need to tell me that I look good and I look nice. If you don't tell me, well, it's going to be trouble. Some couples love gifts. They love to get cards when it's a birthday time. They love you to go out and find a gift and present them. And that's my nightmare. I hate birthdays and Christmases, I must admit, because I don't know what to shop for. I don't know the gift. And some people just simply love to do it. Just give them the money. I must take you on board. Not many women. Go buy what you want. Okay, so let's get back to Michael. What was it that you think she needed? What do you think she actually needed? What was the need that was driving the presenting behavior? Like what? There was an issue. What was it? What was it she needed from David? Assurance, reassurance. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Yep.
No communication, and that wasn't resolved at all after being in love.
Yeah.
For such a long time. And then he went away. And then
She felt abandoned. She felt abandoned.
Explanation about anything. He just basically found it harder to get married. So there was a lot of.
There's a lot of again. I think that they to have a conversation. Question answered. She needs some resolution. Of what happened, why. Why is it that you never came back for me when I had my life on the line, when I went against my father, my very own father? You know, and Saul at that time, he was erratic. In fact, he was possessed. He could have even had her killed. I put my life on the line for you, and you never came back. You abandoned me. And what is even more, you got married. Got married. So there was that underlying issue. On top of that, Michael was into appearance. She was into looks. She was into how she is seen or perceived by people. You notice that she said, why is it you're dressed like a common person? She saw herself being portrayed through how David looked in the eyes of people. So that needed to be taken into account of. I mean, I don't have a very good style, dress style. You know, I've improved through the years thanks to Kimon. Yes. Yes, all right. Yeah. I'm learning. I'm getting there. But it was never an issue for me. It's not a big deal. You know, I didn't have a sense of, even if I wasn't dressed properly and you looked at me, it's no big deal to me. You know, I would, I wear, at one point in time, I remember one time, years and years ago, I stepped out of my house, came down, got the train, went to church, and halfway through, on my way to church, I realized I didn't change my flip-flops. I didn't change my clogs. And so I had two choices. Am I going to turn back or go to church? I went to church. And I was on the rostrum that morning, I was officiating. Yes. But it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. But of course, some people in the crowd. At that time, I was married to her, actually. So it didn't bother me. I would get up and wear things and, and go throughout the day, go all. Yes. However, she feels that how I look reflects on her, that people are going to judge her because of how I look. Right? Yes.
They won't take her seriously because they might see that you're not very serious about it. So it does reflect. And I think that's responsibility to each other.
Okay.
Because what's important, when you're reflecting each other.
Yeah.
So it's important that you reflect her, she reflects you. And even the family, the children reflect your morals, your standards. So it all works in.
Yes. So Michael and David should have a conversation. Now what David did, it wasn't that David was purposely trying to antagonize her. Now, she and I are married now, and I make some efforts. I don't win every time, but I try. I make some effort. But she has to recognize that I'm making the effort, even though it's not my strong point. And what Michael and David have to do is to sit down and work out how best to solve this. First of all, Michael must come to realize that what David was doing was not trying to get at her. He wasn't deliberately trying to antagonize her or upset her. No, he was on a totally different perspective altogether. As far as he was concerned, he was ministering to the people of his kingdom in a priestly fashion and not in a kingly fashion. So there is a difference there. He took off his kingly robe, but yet he had the priestly robe on, and that was the ministry that he was doing. And Michael should come to appreciate that David, he wasn't going to, throw off, get rid of the kingly robe. He was just officiating and organizing himself in a different capacity. And if she comes to understand that, then her attitude might shift. By the way, maybe she was upset. Maybe she was upset. Not maybe, she was definitely upset. Okay? How should she approach it? And you notice when she confronted him. When did she confront him? When he came home. But no, she didn't confront him when he came home. She went out to meet him. Not even in the house. Right? Probably there were other people around. Major mistake. Never embarrass a man in public. You said that again? Yes. Oh, shame is not low, it could break your neck. Okay, all right. That's fine. So, first of all, she didn't even wait until he came in the house. She went outside to confront him. And I think that was the first mistake. The second mistake was the timing. David was not in the mood to hear that. David was up on the mountaintop. She was worshiping God. He successfully, eventually brought the Ark of the Tabernacle back. And remember the history I gave you. It was a long history. So I think he felt accomplished. I think he felt, after all of that, nobody died. Right? The 70 guys got killed by looking into it. Uzzah himself dropped down dead. And this time around, they successfully brought the ark into Jerusalem, into the tabernacle, and nobody died. So David was very happy. Was David in the mood to hear that kind of thing? No. Point. Choose the time, the right time to address the issues and situation. There is a time and a place for everything. Yes?
When he went away, when she told him what was going to happen to him, he went away, do you think he was more complacent rather than neglectful?
No. You mean when they first got married and he had to run?
Yeah.
No. Actually, David had a lot of issues then. David was a life and death situation. David was a fugitive. I think he was more focused on staying alive. Right? Remember, he was running from King Saul. He was like enemy of the state. Yes. Well, she knew that, but at the same time, this is the funny thing when you begin to analyze this. David was quite a brave guy. David faced lions. He faced Goliath. He was able to conquer So you would think that David would not be so coward with regards to Saul. But at the same time, David didn't want to respond to Saul the way Saul was trying to hound him and kill him. So David, I think it was complex. It was a complex thing. And maybe she understood, but as the years went by, then she wasn't hearing from David, and then after she heard that David got married, how do you think she would have felt?
She expected him to start to solve it.
Well, at least she expected him, I think she expected him to make contact. Yeah? She expected him to at least some way, shape, or form come back for her, rescue her. It wouldn't have been an easy thing to do because, she lived in the palace. How are you going to come back there when there's word out for your head? So it was difficult. So they needed to have a conversation. So how should Saul respond? How should David? Was David's response a good one? Let me just read what David said. I'll read what David said, and then we'll talk about it. 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 21. If you have it in your Bibles, please turn there for me, please. 2 Samuel 6:21. And David said unto Michal, it was before the Lord, which chose me before your father and before all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will play before the Lord. I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in my own sight, and of the maidservant which thou hast spoken of them I shall be had in honor. What do you think? So, what do you think of that response? Was that a good response?
Was David now talking as a husband or as the king?
That's a good question.
Yeah, he could have been responding as a king, not as a husband.
But was that a good response?
Wasn't either.
No. In fact, it's counterproductive. But remember that David is reacting. And David is almost that David got triggered. Remember, he probably was tired. He was coming home to bless his house. So he had something in his mind. And he got blindsided by this woman coming out to accost him. So I don't think that David thought it through. It was just on the spur of the moment. And David is saying he was being defensive. That's a word. He was being defensive. By the way, there are four main things that if we see in them in relationships, we know the relationship is in trouble. Shall I tell you them? I told you some of them this morning. I'm going to tell you. The first one is criticism. Being critical is very, very deadly. And what is criticism? What do you think criticism is? Anybody knows what criticism is? Critique? Yeah, well, that's a word. Criticism. Say that again? Finding fault, yes. It's a kind of judgment. It's kind of judgment. Criticism, there's a difference between complaining and criticizing. Although we encourage people not to complain, there's a different way. There's a difference between complaining and criticizing. Do you know the difference? Shall I tell you? Yeah? I'll tell you the difference. When you complain about an issue that bothers you, you speak directly about the issue, what it is, and how it affects you. When you criticize the person who does the thing, you attack the person's character. So it is his fault. Why are you so dirty? You're like a pig. Are you stupid? Instead of saying, when you drop your clothes on the bedroom floor and don't pick them up, it upsets me. I would prefer that you put them in the wash basket. But which is more effective? Yeah? That's wrong. One is attacking, one is talking about the issue and how it impacts you. The other one is talking about the character of the person. And nobody likes to be attacked. Nobody likes to be attacked. No, it's not about the length of it, right? It could also be, can you please take your clothes up and put them in the wash basket? It upsets me when you drop them there. Yeah? You'll be very nice if you don't do that. When you do that, so that is speaking about the issue. The other one is calling the person a slob, calling the person names, nasty, that, lazy, all of that. That is being critical. But from criticism, by the way, men hate being criticized. They hate being compared to. You know, it is almost, you don't know what it does to a man's soul. Right? After that, there is something called contempt. Contempt. Do you know how to spell contempt, Emilio? Contempt. Contempt. C-O-N-T-E-M-P-T. You got it. You got it right. I was trying to see if you could pick up the silent letter there. There is a silent letter. Bright girl, bright girl. Contempt. What is contempt? Has anyone been contemptuous towards you? Have you ever felt? It's an ugly feeling. Racism has a lot of contempt in it. Should I help you with this quickly? We don't have very much time. I'm going to wind up. Contempt is looking down on someone. It's feeling that you're morally superior to the person. It's dehumanizing that person. Is having that person feel as if they're less than, denigrating them, thinking, who are you? Disdain, having disdain for that person. And criticism can easily slide into contempt. Why don't you grow up? You're a little boy. That's bringing someone down, you know? Power of words. By the way, yes, life and death is in the power of the tongue. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. By the way, my friends, contempt is said to be the sulfuric acid of relationship. You know what acid does? It corrodes. A friend of ours, I don't know if you remember him, Kimon, he's from Trinidad. When you see him, when you see his face, it's almost like he would draw back because his face is all scarred. He tells us the story that he became homeless and he was sleeping on the park benches, and some wicked person threw acid on him. And some wicked person, and it disfigured his face. But when you get to know him, he has a beautiful soul. He has a beautiful soul. So contempt is like the sulfuric acid that destroys relationship. Whenever you begin to feel that this person feels that they're better than you, and you begin to act like that, you begin to correct. You're such an idiot. The Bible says that if you say to your brother, Raka, you will be in danger of the judgment. You know what Raka means? Raka means, the original term of the word Raka, it actually means you imbecile. Something is wrong with your brain. So, we just spoke about the first two. What are they? Criticism, contempt. The next two are stonewalling and rubberballing or defensiveness. Now, sometimes these things show up in relationships. It's not impossible, and sometimes they show up. But if they become a regular part of the relationship, that is when you need to come and see the love doctor, myself. I am a love doctor. You see, when you get in an accident, where do they take you? To the hospital. Why? Yes, because it's an emergency. And there are people who are skilled in fixing your bones, in getting your physical body to get back together. When you have a broken heart, where do you go? To the Lord. When you have a broken bone, where do you go? Do you go to the Lord? You pray, yes, but you also go to kill people. Oh, hallelujah. Okay, you need to pray. So, let me just give you, we dealt a lot with, I'm going to round up in the next 2-3 minutes. We dealt a lot with the negative. And I feel that it's my responsibility, and it's going to be remiss of my responsibility if I don't give you the positive. What can you do instead of these? One of the first things that we ask people to do is to be grateful. To be grateful. And when you become grateful, instead, there is a tendency to always look for the negative, especially if you're a teacher. You're always looking for something wrong. I don't know what you teach, but the teachers are always looking for what's wrong. And we do that too. We just kind of got our kitchen done, and every day, is she gone? She's gone. I tell you. She comes home, she looks for everything that is wrong. You know, they didn't make this level. You know, what about this little crack here? Why did you? And everything else look beautiful, you know. But she focuses on what is wrong, what you're supposed to do right. But the same thing with human relationships. We tend to focus on what is wrong. You could do 1,099 right things, and the one wrong thing is what you're on to. It's quite discouraging. And so sometimes when people come to me and they're having problems, one of the exercise that I give them, even though you're having problems, what do you love about this person? What drew you to each other before? Count your blessings, name one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Many times, because what you focus on, hey, let me tell you this, the more you focus on something, the more you actually get what you focus on. Back in the day, I used to do some teaching too, and when we were training, one of the things they brought to our attention, that if you focus on the wrong that the child is doing, you tend to encourage that type of behavior more. So what you need to do is to praise the child more. What you need to do is to focus on the right things that you want. Similarly, in the relationship, you must take time to appreciate. We must take time to not only appreciate, to tell the person what you appreciate about them, what they're doing. So I want you to take a minute now. Think about your relationships. It doesn't have to be a husband or a wife if you don't have one. It could be your mother or your father. It could even be your children. What is it that you appreciate about them? Have you recently told them that? I want you to think about 3 or 5 things. Can you think of 3 or 5 things that you appreciate about your husband, your wife, your child, your mother, your brother, your sister? Can you think of that? How about the pastor of the church? Have you always been on his case, every wrong thing that he does? Do you show appreciation for him? Do you tell him, oh, hallelujah? Okay, that's encouraging. That's encouraging. So I want you to think positively. It doesn't mean that you need to overlook or bypass the wrong things. I'll tell you this. You know what they said? John Gottman, he studies relationships, and he found this. For every wrong thing that you do or say with your spouse, in order to get over that, you need to do 5 right things. For every negative, to get over that, you need 5 right. And so this is the challenge. Are you a Michal? Are you a David? Are you behaving like David and Michal at this point? And if so, how can you change? And so today, I want to round up by asking you to begin to show appreciation, to show gratitude, to let that person know that you love and appreciate them. You know, I haven't said this. During this week, sometimes we get a little tired. And the house was being fixed up, or the kitchen was being fixed up. The house was in a mess and total disarray. And I went to sleep. My wife didn't come up to bed. I was wondering what she's down there pottering about. What is this, those kind of people? She comes alive in the night. You know? Oh, really? Okay. Oh, man, she comes alive. I'm just saying, why you don't go to sleep? And I came down in the morning, and the house was fixed up. Yes. I was just thinking, what? While I was sleeping? Oh, my days. Okay, some people are nocturnal. And sometimes I didn't say, and I haven't said it, but, you know, she's good at making things look nice, fixing them up. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Who do you need to appreciate in your life? Are you focusing too much on the wrong or the negative? Because what you look for, you get. Are you being critical? Are you being contemptuous? Are you stonewalling? And I want to end by this. A lady's husband died. She was a widow. She didn't have anyone. And the neighbor felt sorry for her. And the neighbor, you know, said to her husband, you know, why don't you help her? Why, you know, help her to do some stuff? Because, and the husband went across and did some work for her. And the widow was very appreciative of it. In fact, she was in awe. She has never had anybody do that work before, and the work is so wonderful. And she needed some more work done, so she came and asked the woman if her husband could come across and help her. No big problem, you know. You don't have anybody to help you? Yes, he could. He went and did the work. And she praised the man to high heavens. Such wonderful, oh, she's an expert. A couple of weeks after, she needed more work done. This time, she didn't ask the woman, she asked him directly. Oh, yes. But guess what was happening at home? Every time he came home, why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? A list of things. You're no good for nothing. You're lazy. You didn't put out the trash. You didn't. Yeah. Whereas on the other hand, this woman thought she was almost like God. Well, maybe not like God, but he was so good. Yes. And eventually, what do you think happened? Yes, the relationship swapped. This is the point I'm making. This is the point I'm making. When someone focuses on the good in you, that area develops. When the focus is on the negative, it wears you out. And you tend to want to come away from them. Finally, you could write this down. There is no such thing as a bad relationship and a bad marriage. There is no such thing as a bad relationship or a bad marriage. There are only marriages and relationships where people treat each other badly. There is no such thing as a bad relationship or a bad marriage. There are only relationships which people treat each other badly. If Michael begin to treat David differently, she's going to get a different David. When David begin to respond to Michael differently, she's going to get a different David. And the relationship would become sweet like sugar again. May God bless you. as you work with your relationships, whether husband or wife, parents or children, brothers and sisters, and brethren within the church. Thank you. What do you have?
No.
What do you have? Stonewalling and defensiveness. Defensive.